Chapter 1 of The Morganville Vampire, Glasshouse by By-Racheal Cain. Chapter 1. On the day Claire became a member of the Glasshouse, somebody stole her laundry. When she reached into the crappy, beat-up washing machine, she found nothing but the wet, slick slides of the drum. And like a bad joke, the worst pair of underwear she owned, plus one sock. She was in a hurry, of course. There were only a couple of machines on the top floor of Howard Hall, at the least valued, most run-down rooms in the least valued, most run-down dorm. 2 washing machines, 2 dryers, and you were lucky if one of them was working on any given day and didn't eat your quarters. Forget about the dollar bill slot. She'd never seen it work, not in the last 6 weeks she'd arrived at school. "No," she said out loud, and balanced herself on the edge of the washer to look down into the dark, partly rusted interior. It smelled like mold and cheap detergent. Getting a closer look didn't help. One crappy pair of underwear fraying at the seams, one sock. She was missing every piece of clothing that she'd worn in the last 2 weeks. Every piece that she had actually wanted to wear. "No!" she yelled into the washer, where it echoed back at her and slumped back down. Then kicked the washer violently in the dent made. By all the other disappointed students before her, she couldn't breathe. She had some other clothes, a few, but they were last choice clothes. Oh my God, wouldn't be called dead clothes. Pants that were too short and made her look like a hick. Shirts that were too big and stupid and made her look like her mom had picked them out for her. Well, months before the latest round of... And she had. Claire had about $300 left to last her for, well, months after the latest round of calling for pizza and buying yet another book for Professor Clueless Euless, who didn't have figured out yet what subject he was teaching, who didn't seem to have figured out what subject he was teaching. She supposed she could find some clothes. If she looked around, that wouldn't totally blow her entire budget. After all, downtown Morganville, Texas, was the drift shop capital of the world, assuming she could find anything that she could stand to wear. Mom said this would happen, she thought. I just have to think, keep my cool. Claire threw herself in an orange plastic chair, dumped her backpack on the scratched linoleum, and put her head in her hands. Her face felt hot and she was shaking, and she just knew that she was going to cry. Cry like a baby, like the baby they all said she was. Too young to be here, too young to be away from Mommy. It sucked to be smart, because this was where it got you. She gulped deep, damp breaths and sat back, willing herself not to bawl, because they'd hear, and wonder if she could call Mom and Dad for an extension on her allowance, or use the credit card that was just for emergencies. Then she saw the note. Not so much note as graffiti, but it was addressed to her on the painted cinder block wall above the machine. "Dear Dork," it read, "we found trash in the machines and threw it down the chute. If you want it, dive for it." "Shit," she breathed, and had to blink back tears again for an entirely different reason. Blind, stupid rage. Monica. Well, Monica and the Moniquettes anyways. Why was it the hot mean girls always ran in packs, like hyenas. And why, with all the shimmery long hair and tanned legs, more of Daddy's money than Daddy's accountants? Did they have to focus on her? No, she knew the answer to that. She'd made Monica look stupid in front of her friends, and then some hot upperclassmen. Not that it had been all that hard. She'd just been walking by, heard Monica say that World War II had been that dumbass Chinese war thing. And by simple reflex, she said it wasn't. The whole lot of them slouched over the cushions in the dorm lobby, looked up at her with as much blank surprise as if the Coke machine had just spoken up. Monica, her friends, 3 of the cool older frat boys. World War II. Claire had plunged on, panicked, and not quite sure how to get out of what she had just gotten herself into. I just meant, well, it wasn't the Korean War. That was later. World War II was with the Germans and the Japanese. You know, Pearl Harbor. And the guys had looked at Monica and laughed, and Monica had flushed. Not much, but just enough to ruin the cool, perfection of her makeup. Remind me not to buy any history papers off you, the cutest of the guys had said. What kind of dumbass doesn't know that? Though Claire had been sure none of them had really. Chinese, right. Claire had seen the fury in Monica's eyes, quickly covered over with smiles and laughter and flirting. Claire had ceased to exist again. For the guys, for the girls, she was brand new and unwelcome as hell. She'd been dealing with it all her life. Smart and small and average looking wasn't exactly winning the life lottery. You had to fight for it. Whatever it was, somebody was always laughing at or hitting or ignoring you. Or a combination of the first two. She'd thought when she was a kid that getting laughed at was the worst thing, and then after the first couple of schoolyard showdowns, getting hit jumped up to number 1. But for most of her brief 2 years high school experience, being ignored was far worse. She'd gotten there a year earlier than everyone else and left a year ahead of them. Nobody liked that. Nobody but the teachers, anyway. The problem was that Claire really loved school, loved books, and reading and learning things. Okay, not calculus, but pretty much everything else. Physics. What normal girl loved physics? Abnormal ones. Ones who were never going to be hot. And face it, being hot, that was what life was all about, as Monica had proved, when the world had wobbled off its axis for a few seconds to notice Claire, and then wobbled right back to resolve around the pretty ones. It wasn't fair. She'd dived in and worked her ass off through high school, graduated with a perfect 1.0 score, high enough on the tests to qualify for admission to great schools, the legendary schools, the ones where being brainiac mutant girl freak wasn't necessarily a downside, except that, of course, at those schools, there were probably hot, tall, leggy, brainiac mutant girl freaks. Didn't matter. Mom and Dad had taken one look at the stack of enthusiastic thumbs-up replies from universities like MIT and Caltech and Yale and clamped down hard. No way their 16-year-old daughter, nearly 17, she it kept insisting, although it wasn't really true. Going to run off 3,000 miles to go to school. At least not at first. Claire had tried, unsuccessfully, to get across the concept that if anything would kill her budding academic career, worse than being a transfer student at one of those places, it was being a transfer student from Texas Prairie University, otherwise known as TPEW. So here she was, stuck on the crappy top floor of a crappy dorm in a crappy school where 80% of the students transferred after the first 2 years or dropped out. And the Moniquettes were stealing her wet laundry and dumping it down the trash chute, all because Monica couldn't bother to know anything about one of the world wars big enough to rate a Roman numeral. But it isn't fair. Something in her howled. I had a plan, an actual plan. Monica slept late, and Claire had gotten up early just to do laundry. While all that party crowd was comatose, and the studious crowd was off to Glasses, she thought she could leave it for a couple of minutes to grab her shower. Another scary experience that she'd never even thought about. Anybody doing something so incredibly low. As she bit back her sobs, she noticed again how quiet it was up here, creepy and deserted, with half the girls deep asleep and the others half gone. Even when it was crowded and buzzing, the dorm was creepy, though. Old, full of shadows and corners and places mean girls could lurk. In fact, that summed up the whole town. Morganville was small, old, and dusty, full of creepy little oddities, like the fact that the streetlights worked only half the time, and they were too far apart when they did. Like the way the people in the local campus store seemed too happy, desperately happy. Like the fact the whole town, despite the dust, was clean. No trash, no graffiti, nobody begging for spare change in the alleyways. Weird. She could almost hear her mother saying, "Honey, it's just that you're in a strange place. It'll get better. You'll just have to try harder." Mom always said things like that, and Claire had always done her best to hide how hard it was to follow that advice. Well, nothing to do but try to get her stuff back. Claire gulped a couple more times, wiped her eyes, and hauled the arm-twisting weight of her backpack up over her shoulder. She stared for a few seconds at the wet pair of panties and one sock clutched in her right hand, then hastily unzipped the front pocket of the backpack and stuffed them in. Man, that would kill whatever coal she had left. If she walked around carrying those... Well, said a low, satisfied voice from the open door opposite to the stairs. Look who it is, the dumpster diver. Claire stopped, one hand on the rusted iron railing. Something was telling her to run, but something also told her that fight or flight. She'd read the textbooks, and she was tired of flighting. She turned around slowly as Monica stepped out of the dorm room. Not hers, so she busted Erica's lock again. Monica's running buddies, Jennifer and Gina, bailed out and took up flanking positions. Soldiers in flip-flops and low-rise jeans, French manicures. Monica struck a pose. It was something she was good at, Claire had to admit. Nearly 6 feet tall, Monica had flowing, shiny black hair and big blue eyes, accented with just the right amount of liner and mascara. Perfect skin, one of those model-shaped faces, odd cheekbones and pouty lips, and if she had a model's body, it was a Victoria's Secret model. All curves, not angles. She was rich, she was pretty, and as far as Claire could tell, it didn't make her a bit happy. What did, though, was making those big blue eyes glow right now. Was the idea of tormenting Claire. Just a little more. Shouldn't you be in your first period at the junior high by now? Monica asked. Or at least getting your first period. Maybe she's looking for the clothes she left lying around. Gina piled on and laughed. Jennifer laughed with her. Claire swore their eyes, their pretty jeweled-colored eyes, just glowed with the joy of making her feel like shit. Litterbug, clothes. Monica folded her arms and pretended to think. You mean like those rags we threw away? The ones she left cluttering up the washer? Yeah, those. I wouldn't wear those to sweat in. I wouldn't wear those to scrub out the boys' toilets, Jennifer blurted. Monica, annoyed, turned and shoved her. Yeah, you know all about the boys' toilets, don't you? Didn't you and Steve Gillespie in ninth grade in there? She made sucking sounds, and they all laughed again, though Jennifer looked uncomfortable. Claire felt her cheeks flare red, even though it wasn't, for a change, a diss against her. Jeez, Jen, Steve Gillespie? Keep your mouth shut if you can't think of something that won't embarrass yourself. Jennifer, of course, turned her anger on a safer target, Claire. She lunged forward and shoved Claire back a step toward the stairs. Go get your stupid clothes already. I'm sick of looking at you with your pasty skin. Yeah, junior high. Ever heard of sunshine? Gina rolled her eyes. Watch it, Monica snapped, which was odd because all 3 of them had the best tans money could buy. Claire scrambled to steady herself. The heavy backpack pulled her off balance, and she grabbed onto the banister. Jen lunged at her again and slammed the heel of her hand painfully hard into Claire's collarbone. Don't! Claire yelped and batted Jen's hand away hard. There was a second of breathless silence, and Monica said very quietly, Did you just hit my friend, you stupid little bitch? Where do you think you get off doing things like that around here? And she stepped forward and slapped Claire across the face, hard enough to draw blood, hard enough to make flares and comets streak across Claire's vision, hard enough to make everything turn red and boiling hot. Claire let go of the banister and slapped Monica right back, full across her pouty mouth. And for a tight, white, hot second, she actually felt good about it. But then Monica hissed like a scorched cat, and Claire had time to think, oh crap, I really shouldn't have done that. She never saw the punch coming, didn't even really feel the impact, except as the blank sensation and confusion. But then the weight of her backpack on her shoulder was pulling her to one side as she staggered. She almost caught herself, and then Gina, grinning spitefully, reached over and shoved her backwards down the stairs. and there was nothing but air behind her. She hit the edge of every stair all the way to the bottom. Her backpack broke open and spilled books as she tumbled, and at the top of the stairs, Monica and the Moniquettes laughed and hooted and high-fived, but she saw it only in disconnected little jerks of motion. Freeze frames. It seemed to take forever, but she skidded to a stop. A stop at the bottom, and then her head hit the wall with this nasty, meaty sound, and everything went black. She later remembered only one more thing in the darkness, Monica's voice, a low, vicious whisper. "Tonight, you'll get what's coming to you, you freak. I'm going to make sure." It seemed like seconds, but when she woke up again, there was somebody kneeling next to her, and it wasn't Monica on her nail polish mafia body. It was Erica, who had the room at the top of the stairs, 4 doors down from Claire's. Erica looked pale and strained and scared, and Claire tried to smile because that was what you did when someone was scared. She didn't hurt until she moved, and then her head started to throb. There was a red-hot ache near the top, and when she reached up to touch it, she felt a hard raised knot. No blood, though. It hurt worse when she probed the spot, but not in a "oh my god, skull fractured" kind of way, or at least that was what she hoped. "Are you okay?" Erica asked, waving her hands kind of helplessly in mid-air as Claire wiggled her way up to a sitting position against the wall. Claire risked a quick look up past her, up the stairs, then down. The coast looked Monica clear. Nobody else had come out to see what was up either. Most of them were afraid of getting in trouble, and the rest just flat out didn't care. "Yeah," she said, and managed a shaky laugh. "Guess I tripped." "You need to go to the Quack Shack," which was a college code for university clinic, or God, an ambulance or whatever. No, I'm okay." Wishful thinking, but although basically everything in her body hurt like hell, nothing felt like it had been broken into pieces. Claire got to her feet, winced at a sore ankle, and picked up her backpack. Notebooks tumbled out. Erica grabbed a couple and jammed them back in, then ran lightly up a few steps to gather the scattered textbooks. "Damn, Claire, do you really need all this crap? How many classes do you have in a day? 6? You're nuts." Erica, good deed done, reverted to the neutrality and all non-cool girls in the dorm had shown her so far. "Better get to the Quack Shack. Seriously, you look like crap." Claire pasted on a smile and kept it there until Erica got to the top of the stairs and started complaining about the broken lock on her dorm room. Tonight, Monica had leaned over and whispered, "You'll get what's coming for you, you freak." She hadn't called anybody or tried to find out if Claire had broken a neck. She didn't care if Claire died. No, that was wrong. The problem was she did care. Claire tasted blood. Her lip was split, and it was bleeding. She wiped at the mess with the back of her hand, then the hem of her t-shirt before realizing that it was literally the only thing she had to wear. I need to go down to the basement and get my clothes out of the trash. The idea of going down there, going anywhere alone in the storm, suddenly terrified her. Monica was waiting, and the other girls wouldn't do anything. Even Erica, who was probably the nicest one in the whole place, was scared to come right out on her side. Hell, Erica got hassled too, but she was probably just as glad as Claire. Glad that Claire was there to get the worst of it. This wasn't just as bad as high school, where she'd been treated with contempt and casual cruelty. This was worse, a lot worse, and she didn't even have any friends here. Erica was about the best she'd been able to come up with, and Erica was more concerned about her broken door than Claire's broken head. She was alone, and if she hadn't been before, she was scared now. Really, really scared. What she'd seen in Monica Mafia's eyes today wasn't just usual lazy menace of cool girls versus the geeks. This was worse. She'd gotten casual shoves or pinches before. Trips, mean laughter. This was more like lions coming for the kill. They're gonna kill me. She started shakily down the flight of stairs, every step a wincing pain through her body, and remembered that she'd slapped Monica hard enough to leave a mark. Yeah, they're gonna kill me. If Monica ended up with a bruise on that perfect face, there wasn't any question about it.